entrepreneurs and professionals of Tampa Bay. Welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections for elevating your business. Welcome to Getting the Edge with Kelly Wilson. And here's your host, Kelly Wilson.
Welcome to Getting the Edge. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. Thank you so much for being with us today. Getting the Edge is an interview-style, 1-hour, informative interview-style show with amazing community leaders, business owners in the Tampa Bay community to not just talk about their businesses and products and services, but Getting the Edge is really all about learning their story and them sharing their trials and tribulations, failures and successes. And I'm a firm believer that we can learn so much from each other. So that's exactly why we're here each and every week to bring you the Edge. Getting the Edge is a product of Edge Media Hub. For more information on Edge, check out edgemediahub.com. Thank you so much for our Getting the Edge sponsors, Urban E-Recycling. Thank you so much. They are our Season 7 show sponsor. And thank you so much to our platinum partners, All Trust Insurance, Visit Tampa Bay, USF Muma College of Business, and Pilot Bank. I'm going to draw a blank. Thank you so much. Edge would not be here in what it is today without all of your annual support. So thank you so much. All of our information, again, is on the website. All of our annual partnership information, all of the benefits that are included. There are 3 partnership levels, depending on whether you're solo or small business or corporate. And all of them come with, again, different benefits, all to fit your budget and expected outcomes and desired goals. So definitely check out Edge Media Hub for more information. If there are any questions that you need answers to, definitely reach out to us at info@edgemediahub.com. You can also call us at 813-448-2874. So again, so excited. I'm always excited. We have our 2nd annual celebration of women that's coming up soon. That should be launching near the end of April, beginning of May. And we do still have some ad space available in that. So definitely reach out, check out some of the opportunities there and different ways to highlight your business. So again, really excited to be here today, as I am each week, with amazing individuals to have great conversations with. So we're going to start off today with Mr. Brian Butler, CEO of Vistra Communications. Thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be here, Kelly.
Thank you for being here. I feel so low for some reason, but maybe you just, I don't know. Anyway, thank you.
Wonderful to be here.
Yeah, no, pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Vistra Communications, tell us a little bit about Vistra.
About Vistra, well, Vistra was actually started out of my home about 14 years ago after I retired from the Army. And couldn't find a job.
We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But
we're wonderful. And we provide a full range of public relations, marketing, research, strategy, counsel, and a number of other service areas for our clients. And our clients are typically in the federal space, the corporate space, or nonprofit space, all over the country.
Well, you've been everywhere. I'm honored to have you on the show with us today. You've been, I think every time I'm looking at something, you're somewhere talking. So it's a privilege. Like, I'm honored. Thank you for being here and blessing our presence today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I truly mean that.
Pleasure. My pleasure. USF Muma College of Business. I know you just participated with them with their CEO, conversation with the CEO, which COVID has changed so much of that. Typically, Edge would be there with you with all of those. But you did a great job with that. How was that experience?
Oh, it was great. Anytime you get a chance to talk to Dean Moez, it's going to be a great experience. So I was blessed that he asked me to come and join him on his show and just talk about what we do, talk about things in the community, things that are important to us together and helping to make this community better.
It is amazing with all of the different individuals that make up our Tampa community, and we talk about this on the show often. Just so much of that camaraderie and just coming together to lift one another, and it's really, I love it. It's an amazing thing to see.
It really happens when we work together. When we find ways for the business community to get involved with other aspects of our community. It really uplifts the whole community.
It really does, and that is, again, I think the more relationships and just the more time you spend in the Tampa area, you feel it. I mean, it is great, and I am honored again to have the annual partners that we do, and USF has just been great. So I've had a chance to get really close with Moez and their whole team over there, Lori Briggs and all of them. They're great. So,
they sure are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about your Army experience. And I know we've had the chance to talk some, and you shared some experience with me how you would fly around. Tell us a little bit about some of your job. What was your job for the Army?
I had lots of different jobs in the Army. I was commissioned in 1984 out of Hampton University in Virginia, a historically black college. And I got a chance to, I believe, that commercial back in the late 70s, early 80s.
You got a chance to what?
There was a commercial back in the late 70s, early 80s that said, join the Army and see the world. I actually believed it. For the next 22 years, I got a chance to literally see about half the world. I traveled to more than 60 countries. So I commanded troops in combat on one end, and on the other end, I served as a spokesperson to an Army secretary, and on the team, communications team for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and also worked in the White House for a couple of years. So I got a chance to just really experience
a little bit of everything.
A little bit of lots of different things and lots of different places around the globe.
So with the communications, like tell us a little bit more about that. I know we talked some about it. It just seemed like a really great opportunity to fly and
yeah. When I was a spokesperson for the Army secretary, I mean, we traveled.
Spokesperson for the Army secretary. Yeah. So what indeed is your job?
So the secretary of the Army is appointed by the president, and it's the top leader for the service. It's not a general officer. It's a person that's appointed, and he works very closely with the chief of staff of the Army, the 4-star. They work very closely together, and they have different lines of responsibility. So I represented the secretary as his spokesperson, and we mainly were focused on technology integration. We're focused on the Army's partners, which it needs. We're focused on recruiting young men and women. We're focused on some of the big picture logistics pieces of the Army. And I got a chance to get out with him and just share and tell the Army story all over.
Yeah, I mean, to be in the communications, and to already have that kind of passion, but then to be able to do that on that level. Yeah. It's
unbelievable. Not something I ever imagined as a child growing up in South Florida.
Right, wow. And that, so I was going to ask, so where did you grow up? So
I grew up in Riviera Beach, West Palm Beach area.
Okay.
And left to go to Virginia to go off to college, and then the world just opened up.
So tell me, you did say, so you went to college, and tell me that at college.
Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia.
Okay, and then from there you went into the Army.
I was commissioned at Hampton in 1984, and from there I went into the Army. It was quite the ride.
So, a question, which
yes.
maybe I should know already, but so commissioned, what does that mean? I guess it's a military term.
Yeah. It's not necessarily a military term, but I went through the ROTC program, Reserve Officer Training Corps program. It commissions thousands. Those programs commission thousands of officers every year to join the services. And I came in as a second lieutenant because of that program.
So that's where you're coming in with a degree, in a sense, right? Okay, yeah, okay.
And you go through some training during those 4 years in the program to kind of help you get ready for coming on active duty or to serve in the reserves.
And so your main reason for wanting to do that was wanting to see the world?
Well, that was the second part. Having a job was like the first part.
Yeah. I guess that would be priority, right? Needing a job, right? And then, obviously, the opportunity to see the world. And
every opportunity I got.
And to fly on the jet, I believe.
I got a chance to do, and I was asked to go do something, I just did it. I got a chance to just, throw more tools into my tool bag. Many of those tools I use every day. By just saying, yes, I'll go do that. And saying it with a smile and going to do it. So that led me, to a variety of jobs over the next 22 years. And each one built upon themselves. And I always used things that I had learned previously.
Right.
And
you take a little bit of all of it and apply it, right?
Every day.
Right.
Every day. That's still my attitude every day.
Right. And still learning, right? And taking it all in as you can. Because I think that's the great part about when you get to a certain age. At 18, I thought I had all the answers, right? Especially I was a mom and married or divorced by then. But anyway, but then you realize it's funny that at 18 I had all the answers, and then at 40 I know nothing. It's kind of.
Well, I'm still learning every day. Is the way I see it.
Yeah.
Every day I wake up and I try to figure out what am I going to learn today. I know I'm going to learn something from somebody just about everybody I run across. I'm going to learn something from somebody in that today.
And that's where I feel like one of the luckiest people ever, sitting down with amazing people constantly, whether it's through the magazine or all these multiple platforms, and sharing stories. It's like I'm in constant overdrive with like optimism because everyone, and hopefully I share that, back and give it back out to those that need it. There's funny, I'll have some friends close and I'll say, all right, I am like overflowing with positivity right now. Somebody needs to come around me and like take some of it, because literally I feel like sometimes you're supposed to share it. No, sometimes it's too much. Like you almost feel like you're supposed to do something with it. Maybe me being around other people would help give them a creative jolt that they need. I don't know, but it's especially lately as I've been sitting down with all of these amazing women, working on the women's issue. It's just wow. It sends me into overdrive, but in a very optimistic, happy way. So I'm just honored by it. Again, I talk a lot, but I've realized that I already know what I have to say. I mean, we can learn so much from each other, and I never underestimate what I can learn from anyone, because everyone, I think, no matter what job or wherever, everyone has something that they can offer, or some experience that you can relate into your own life or path, somehow. So it's interesting how it's fun to watch, and as I talk with everyone about their stories, it's like pieces of a puzzle, that come together and then ultimately form who you have become today. But it's interesting that, how one step leads to another, and then one to another, and you don't necessarily know what those, all those connecting pieces are going to be later, but it's just beautiful how,
and then you look back and you reflect upon those and you go, okay, when I was at this place, this happened, I could use that experience. I didn't know at the time how valuable those experiences were, but I literally draw upon those experiences through my 22 years of Army service into the things we do for our customers and with our customers every day.
Right. Is there any particular experience that stands out from others?
Oh, there's just so many of them.
Okay, give me a couple.
When you're leading young men and women, in an all-volunteer Army, it's not what you see on the commercials. It's not just yelling and screaming every day.
At scaring them to get in line?
It's so much more. I mean, these young men and women are so smart, and they can solve problems. And when you empower them to solve problems, to help solve problems, you really get more accomplished. And that's the same attitude I take at work every day. I do a call with my entire company, or whoever wants to join, every Friday at noon for 15 or 20 minutes. And today I talked about teamwork. And I had a couple members. I had one of the employees that has been with me since before I started the company, and him talk about what being a part of a team really means to him in his own version, and what that means for us in our ability to serve our clients.
What does it mean to you?
It means that I know I'm not alone.
Okay.
It means that I don't have to solve that client's problem by myself. I have a fantastic team of individuals who bring other experiences, a very diverse team of individuals, both in terms of sex, in terms of race, in terms of,
diverse.
We have a very diverse team of individuals who put our heads together and we solve client problems.
Yeah. It's amazing when you come through and then you do come up with solutions that maybe alone you might not have come up with.
So we bought an old bank a few years ago in Lutz, where our headquarters is, and one of the first things we did as we were remodeling and moving in is we took walls and made the whole wall whiteboard walls, and we get up to that wall and we kind of map out the challenge, and we work together with 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 6 people, whatever it takes to really look at the challenge and find a solution to that. And we apply that to both internal to our organization and external to our organization as well. So the challenges we face and that our clients face, I know we come up with better solutions because we do it that way.
Yeah, I love the whiteboards. Yeah, it's I have them everywhere as well. I'm visual. So anytime you're visual and you can kind of work through a problem and visually look at something.
And we've learned to do the same thing on the Microsoft Team or on Zoom when we're having client meetings and when we're having internal meetings. We do the same thing. We put a slide up, we identify what the challenge is, we let everybody look at it, and then we go after it. How do we solve this?
Yeah.
How do we move it from here to here?
Yeah, no, and it's great to have, again, the people that have, not all their mindsets are the same.
Right.
And then they, I crave that even more. We have a great team, but I look forward to us growing even more, because I just think the more minds you bring in and the more diverse areas of experience, right, and expertise.
And we've gone from me doing this out of my home
Right.
to having about 108, 110 employees today. So our company
congratulations.
dynamics have, well, thank you. It's really changed. It's growing. We've learned to scale. We've learned to do that with purpose. We're helping put right resources in the right place to get the things done we need to get done. We have an office in Northern Virginia, and we just have a lot of fun doing what we do.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. You're definitely very passionate about what you do. I mean, you can tell that, and that's what's great about you taking your experience from the Army and just through life and being able to incorporate that into your business today. So, what are some tips or what do you look for when you build a team? I mean, we did talk about diverse, expertise, but are there any other characteristics or anything that?
I think the main characteristic is attitude. Does the person bring the right attitude to be a part of the team to help us solve client challenges, client problems? And to me, it starts with attitude. Even if they're lacking in some other places, but they have the right attitude, they can learn, they can be trained, they can dig in for themselves, they can learn things but when we bring somebody on a team that doesn't have the right, when they don't buy into our values or, our concept of how we get it done, then we typically have challenges. When they buy in,
they don't belong there. Ultimately.
They don't belong there.
Right,
they may be a great person for another company, but probably not ours.
Well, and I think anytime that someone's, they have to get it, they have to feel it, and they have to want to be a part of it and feel like they do have, like they are a part of it, or have some ownership of something. Like otherwise, just to have an employee, it's a different mindset. It's often more difficult.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, you mentioned client problems. So what are some of the more regular, that you see repetitive, the client issues that you deal with from a branding communication standpoint?
Typically, how do they communicate with this specific or these three specific audiences? If they're selling something or they're trying to convince something, how do you really get compelling messages to break through all the clutter that's out there today? I mean, the internet's so busy.
Overly saturated.
It's overly saturated. So how do you
distinguish yourself?
How do you distinguish yourself, and what do you stand for?
I imagine
as
there's
company,
often quite businesses that can't answer that initially. That they don't necessarily have a mission.
We typically, when we onboard a client, especially in that space, and we put them through a proprietary program that we call a V-Huddle, a Vistra Huddle, where we get to really get in their head about what they're thinking, and we come in with some, really drill down. We can find out then what they stand for.
And I think often sometimes as people talk, you find out they elaborate a little more, and you are able to even kind of help them identify even further.
Right,
because sometimes they're so in it, they're so close, it's harder to see some of the answers or solutions, right? Until you step out and look from different perspectives.
And you really, from our perspective, from our team's perspective, we have to have people on our team that will listen.
Right.
We ask probing questions and then step back and listen to what the client is saying, because sometimes they know the answer, or it's right in front of them, but they're moving so fast that they haven't figured it out yet. So if you can help them to, just by listening, tremendous value can be added.
And we talk a lot on the show just about listening and listening to understand, and actually, hearing and really understanding, and then asking the questions that you need to make sure that you heard. Because we're all in our own realities. Sometimes we hear things that sometimes different conversations happen, right? And there's only one conversation, but people take it differently. So it's always interesting as you deal with different personalities. So what do you enjoy most of
helping people?
Yeah.
Whether it's helping our employees, our team members, as we call them, because we're just all on one big team. Helping our clients succeed, helping the underdogs.
Yeah.
We enjoy being in inner city communities. We enjoy being in underserved communities to really help move the needle.
You are involved in quite a bit, and involved in different. What are some of the different organizations that you're involved in the community and that you're passionate about?
Yeah, I'd say a couple. I'm passionate about what's happening in our education system today. I've been working in Mort Elementary for a number of years, And
I'm very familiar with Mort.
and we got really close to.
Do you have a connection with Mort? Like, why Mort?
Because of where it's located.
Oh, okay. Oh, I guess. My son, when I first, anyway, my son went there like for only a few weeks.
Really?
We actually moved. But when I had first moved to Tampa from Indianapolis, my son was 4, so we had just turned 5 anyway. So my mom lived right around there.
Okay.
And we were with her briefly till I found our own place because I'm 22 at that time. Anyway, and he went to Mort very briefly. And it was actually it was a nice school. He ended up Maniscalco, I think, because we ended up moving to near Gaither,
Yeah.
and then he was in Maniscalco territory and had to take the bus all the way to DeBule Road, which was way out there. But yeah, I have a fondness with Mort.
Well, I definitely have a fondness of Mort. I spent a lot of time in Mort over the last 6 or 7 years, and I was actually in there, but it was usually 1 hour at a time that I was in there. And one day I went to the principal and asked, would you mind if I spend a full day in the school? So I spent a full day in the school, and it really helped me to see some of the challenges of the school and what's happening in our schools today. And I went back, thought about it. We actually put together a program that we now call CEOs in Schools.
Oh, I love
because
that.
I thought how wonderful it would be for our community if we got more business leaders involved in our schools. And we went out and recruited, with the help of a few others, 170 business leaders, one assigned to each school, and they went and spent the whole day in these schools. And so last month, we held our second annual
I did hear
CEO in
about
Schools
that.
Day.
Okay.
And that's how it all got started.
So you did that?
I created a program. Our company really did
I
the
didn't
work to do
realize that, because I did hear about that recently, because I forget who I was talking to, but they'd mentioned they'd been at the school for CEO
in
Day at the
schools.
school, right.
But
That's great.
what's really happened, you get these CEOs in these schools, they're looking at these challenges just as I was looking at these challenges, and they decide where they can fit in, if they can fit in, what they can do to help. And some phenomenal things are happening in our schools today in Hillsborough County because these CEOs are in there looking through the lens of their own eyes, and they're finding ways they can jump in and help. And just a number of them are doing some amazing things in our schools.
I remember with Mort specifically, there were challenges even with size and space. They kept putting portables and adding things to the back, and I mean they make it work, but. I'm not as involved in the schools. Thankfully, my youngest is 20 now. I do have my favorite.
Well, my
little
youngest
people.
is 26, and I'm still involved in the schools.
Yeah, that's great.
Just from a different perspective.
Absolutely, yeah.
When my kids are going through schools, I was that dad that went to the schools to find out what was going on. I was that dad that volunteered in the PTA. I was that dad that helped lead initiatives involved in schools. And we moved a lot. So our kids, moved a lot, and they went to a lot of schools. But I thought it was very important to have a presence in there. For one, I want to send a message to the teachers that I cared.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that I was going to be involved, and that we were involved family, involved parents, involved dad.
Well, I think then the teachers have an idea of the student, of what to expect from the student, because they've met the parent and they know the parent is supportive and involved, and I can imagine, that does help with the child's.
Now, my kids didn't like it so much when they got to high school, and I was still involved.
No, I can imagine. Yeah, that wouldn't have gone over so well with mine either. But it's important to be involved, and I think it probably, now that your kids are older, it's even better or easier, more fun, maybe something, because it's just
I just approach it a little differently today.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily approach it from a parental perspective.
Right.
Our approach today is
a solution fixer, a solution maker, something like that.
How should our business and community work with our education community to uplift the entire community?
Yeah.
That's the perspective and the lens in which I choose to.
Well, and it really starts with the kids, right? I mean, we are only, we're doing what we do, and it's kind of like we talk about this on the show quite a bit with, us handing off batons to, from the work that someone's done before me, and then I come along, or then, and ultimately these children, are going to be the ones that are going to be leaders
But
someday.
also the teachers that work so hard in these schools, and the staff that are often overlooked and underpaid, and the principal that's there trying to get things done. What the CEO brings things to the whole of the school. Absolutely important that we focus on the kids, but I chose to also focus on the teachers and the staff and the other elements of the school that you don't hear so much about. the people that are in there with these kids all day, every day,
yeah.
that need our support as well.
I'm blessed to have Doretha Edgecombe, which is a former retired Hillsborough County School Board, amazing individual. I cannot
That
wait
she
to
is.
share
She's
Doretha's
amazing.
story. Yes. So we've been talking quite a bit about the
Okay.
school board recently, just because I've been talking with Doretha, and wow, again, this is what I'm talking about. So I'm already this like happy, optimistic person, and then you sit me down with Doretha, and and what is interesting is they see passion in you. They see what you're yet to do, and that anyway, it's just so I don't know what that word is, gratifying. I don't know if that is it, but I don't know. These women are just amazing of what they've done and what Doretha accomplished as a single mother after she lost her husband to leukemia at 37, I think he was, and was the first African American civil court district or attorney or
Right. The courthouse is named after him today.
yeah. And what an amazing. So yes.
Also, Moffitt has an initiative. Excuse me. Moffitt has an initiative named after her husband as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Focused on research for African Americans. We helped Moffitt develop this program out a few years ago, and we thought, we recommended to Moffitt that they name this, and I worked with Ms. Edgecombe and asked her permission to name this the George Edgecombe Society, which is a program that's funded to provide research for cancer that affects primarily African Americans, and they've got some amazing results in just a few short years, and it's just and I thought it'd be something that she would allow us to
Absolutely.
because of the role of her husband and working with Lee Moffitt to get Moffitt started.
And really his life was cut so short that and really he had this whole life ahead of him where he was breaking barriers and it's
But his name lives on,
absolutely.
and for so many positive reasons.
Absolutely. And then, even Doretha, she talks, her daughter now is a just, and it's just amazing. But then these people then inspire us and make us, instill within us, wanting to do the best that we can to almost, just keep giving or paying it forward or giving back. I'm not sure. But it's awesome. So I could ramble about Doretha and these women forever. There's a lot of really cool men in the community too, and we talked about some recently with. I think it might have been one of the other shows, but anyway. So what is your definition of success today? I kind of have an idea. Oh, I want to ask too about some of the other because we did talk about the schools, but I believe there are a couple others. But let's talk about success. What is your definition of success?
My personal success or others? Success for others.
Personal.
Success for me is the ability to be in a position to help give back and uplift others.
Yeah, I enjoyed sitting down with people that are humble and they just want to help. I think even with Edge, I've been told even at our events and different things we do, we attract like-minded individuals that indeed, it's really all about the underdog and the little guy and just giving it back and paying it forward, and everybody wants to see each other thrive.
This is what I know. It's not about me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And something my parents ingrained in me as a young kid, it really wasn't about me. And once I realized that, as I got older, that life really isn't about me. It's about those things around me. It becomes easier. It became easier for me to do things that can cause more effect.
Like one of my favorite quotes is Maya Angelou. It's not so much about what you said, it's how you made people feel. And, I talk about that a lot. It's at the end of the day, you can't take anything with you. I think I want to make sure that my time here was spent, making sure that I could do whatever I could do while I'm here. We all need money, and money's great. And I also talk a lot about, I think sometimes people are so caught up in, ego in a sense, and driven that way, and they're not focused. And I feel like people search aimlessly almost, like for happiness outside. And I think all they have to do is look within. And if they would just do something that would pull on their heartstrings, I think they would find happiness a little. But I don't know. I
would agree with that. There's so many places to find it. And so many places to help and assist others. It's not about always writing a check. Sometimes it's it could be something as simple of just helping somebody carry a bag to their car.
I always quote, and I mess them up, which is why I brought the iPad. But by the time I take a minute to look for the quote, I don't know, 5 minutes might pass. But Benjamin Disraeli, and I say this all the time, which I should know this quote, is it's not like, don't just share your riches with someone else. Like, to reveal to him his own or her.
Yeah.
You know, and that, I love that, because that, you know, yeah, it's great to give and do, but show them how to do it themselves so that they're able to then prosper on their own, and they can do what they need to do, and then they can lead other people and do what they do.
And everybody has something to offer.
I believe that. I believe we're all here for a particular reason, and I believe we know that early on, and then I think society and family and different things, you know, send us in different directions. But I think when we can get in tune with ourselves and realign back with our path that we're supposed to be on, it's this amazing fulfillment. And I don't know, even real estate was an amazing career. I did really great. I enjoyed very much all of the buyers and sellers, the relationships that I made, but I always knew I was off path somewhere. Something's off. And you know, in fact, I would say that to my mother a couple times, and, you know, she thought, my God, like, look at this beautiful home and this career that you built, and you're not happy? And I'm like, no, I'm happy. I'm happy. But there's something missing. I'm off path. And she never did understand that. And you'd mentioned, you know, your family had kind of told you early on, it's not about you. You know, I didn't have that upbringing in a sense. You know, I know my mother was always saying, like, why do you care about everybody else? You need to get your shit together first. Focus on you. But, you know, and I always tell my daughter, and I know I drive her nuts, you know, but I would have loved to have had somebody in my life, like someone crazy like me, that would just talk about possibilities or opportunities or open your mind up to what you ultimately could be doing. And I didn't have that. So I don't think, and it's funny, I've talked to people through the years and they'll say, well, I didn't have anyone inspire me. That's why I didn't do anything with my life. And I'm like, I didn't either. I inspired myself, you know, but it's just, we all have different experiences.
Right.
Like, it goes back in our own realities, like we mentioned earlier. So what do you think? What was I going to ask you about? We talk about advice a lot, you know, where somebody says something to you and then it stays like forever. Like, what are some things, like different tips or the best advice you've ever been given?
Oh, there's been lots of them. I don't know if I can say there's been one, because one of the things I've done, and even since I was a child growing up, is find people that, even if they didn't want to pour into me, I found a way to help them pour into me. So I always believed in getting advice from the elderly. Those folks that already walked in those shoes. So I got advice from people who fought in the civil rights movement about how hard the struggle was. I got advice from people who were in business about some of the challenges of business. I got advice from people in the community that talked about how you move a community forward and really make a difference and change. And I always seek advice, even today. I'm always looking for ways I had a conversation with a gentleman this morning in South Carolina, and just he had been a state legislator, and he was just giving me he didn't realize how much advice he was just giving me, just about, you know, how you get into a community and help make change. And what he's doing some things in South Carolina that I would love to figure out a way to do some of those things here in the Tampa Bay area. And I got introduced to him, and we started as a 15, 20-minute conversation that went almost 90 minutes.
Oh, wow. I love those when you sit down and you're like, okay, I've got 15 minutes, you know, and then an hour and a half you're still sitting there talking, and you know, those are great. And okay, I'm going to mention Doretha one more time, but as we're sitting there talking and she's going through and telling me about her time when she went off to college to Alabama, and I think this was I think she graduated in 69, so 65, 64. And again, you know, I didn't realize at that time that schools were still segregated. You know, it wasn't even until the 70s and I didn't know that. I mean, I just didn't even think about it. And then, so she's going to Alabama because she's from here, and then went to Alabama, and then in the South, you know, and then dealing, you know, some of the stories that we talked, and the civil rights movement was going on. You know, she'd mentioned that Martin Luther King had come to the campus, you know, and just some of these different things that were happening. And I can only imagine. I don't know. The history is just.
And that wasn't very long ago.
No, that's what's so. You know, no, that's what.
I met Rosa Parks when I was in college.
Did you?
And so people think, well, that happened a long, long time ago. It really wasn't that long ago.
I know. No, it wasn't. And that is when you actually think, because, and that's, I think, when she said, I graduated, because I was born in 72. So when she said I graduated in like 69, and at that time the schools were segregated, I'm thinking, what? So it's a few years before I was born, schools were still segregated? Like, because I think sometimes we think about it like it was, the 1920s. It was so long ago, and it
Down
really
in South
wasn't.
Florida,
It
where I
really
went to
wasn't.
school, the schools were integrated in third grade. So in third grade is the first time that I saw kids that didn't look like me in the schools.
Wow.
Which, looking back, it was such a wonderful thing because it kind of helps prepare you for life when you start being a part of things that take you out of your comfort zone and talking with people that don't have the same experiences that you have.
Absolutely.
That's
That's where you grow.
Right.
I mean, that's where you're able to
And
learn.
I attribute my mother and my father because what they did in the civil rights movement, they knew that there had to come a time when little black kids would sit next to little white kids. And they would often create space for us to do things with our white friends, where they actually came to our house and we went to their homes. So my parents were trendsetters in the early 70s, late 60s, from that perspective.
In my family, we're all mixed. It's so I kind of think about that sometimes. Like my family would not be accepted today in a sense. It wouldn't be. Or they'd be in different schools. They wouldn't know what school to send them to. Or anyway. It's just obviously. It's a conversation I had recently, so it's very kind of prominent in my head, and since we've been talking about Doretha, but yeah, it is. We still have so much more to go, and there's still too much.
Mrs. Edgecombe is just an icon in this community.
Yeah.
She carries herself with so much grace and dignity and humbleness. I met her in 2006 when I first moved to this community, and so I watched her from afar. And so anytime I got a chance to work with her or do something with her, it was just I was the benefactor of that.
Absolutely.
To learn from her.
And that is what like her and just even some of the other women and different people. But when you inspire them, or when you make them smile, or you make them feel a certain way, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm very thankful, and I'm just happy to be here. So what's next for you? Like, what more do you want to do, or what are your future plans?
Oh, keep trying to run this business as best I can.
Yeah.
Keep trying to make a difference in the lives of others in this community and other places where we do work.
Are you planning to grow out even more than you're in Virginia, right, in the D.C. area, and then Tampa as well?
Yeah. Well, this is my philosophy. If you're not growing, you're dying. And so for us to continue to maintain, we have to find new places to provide services. We have to provide new opportunities. We have to continue to expand the work we do right here in the Tampa Bay area, but we can't be afraid to look other places. So there's always something brewing in my head about what's next. We had a chance to acquire a small marketing agency several years ago. We perhaps make another acquisition here at some point. But we're always looking for ways. How can we be the go-to solution for our clients? What else can we bring to them that will help them do their jobs better? That's what I wake up thinking about every day.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons that you are involved so much and stand out, and people know of Vistra because you are in the community and you are passionate about helping the community. And I think, you're not doing that based on expectations or what you can get back from it. You're doing it because, that's where your heart is. And
it also allows me to connect the dots.
Yeah.
It allows me to, I hear things from different places. It allows me to help a client. We're working with a client over in St. Petersburg now on a project. And with that project, because of things I heard other places, I was able to bring some additional things that were important to them because of the relationships that we've helped and we've formed here in this community.
Yeah, that's great too. And, it's all about relationships, and we talk about that a lot. It's great to do things without expectations.
And you asked where else, earlier you asked what else are we doing in the community. I'm very involved in the Tampa Bay Chamber. Have been for a number of years. I'm on the executive board there, and that's a place where I get a chance to help and work with other businesses in the Tampa Bay area. I'm actually in line to be the chair of the chamber in 2022. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the things that we get to do to affect change in the business community, for the policy things. I've gone to D.C. to talk policy in the D.C. level with the members of the chamber, and I'm very proud of the work we do there. I'm involved with the Tampa Bay Partnership, and that group of men and women that represent businesses in this community are just doing some amazing things.
Is that the downtown partnership? The Tampa partnership.
Tampa Bay partnership that's a different organization, but they really are focused on how to make this community better, how to make this community more attractive to the Amazons of the world, to the Dells of the world, to bring in more corporations in here. Bring in more business means more jobs for people that live here. It means there's probably a better chance that we'll get better transportation here. It increases our tax base. There's so many benefits to bringing business into this community.
Yeah, and there's so much growth everywhere between the Uptown project, is that, you got Channel Side, you have Midtown, in all these different directions. There's just so much going on, and it's really exciting time to be in Tampa.
It is a very exciting time to be in Tampa. And we have one of the best airports in the country. I took my first flight
I haven't
last
flown out
week.
of it in quite a while, but it is pretty nice.
I'm typically the same. Before COVID, I was on the road for 15 to 18 days a month. Since COVID, I've slowed down considerably, like most people, but I started getting back out recently. And I flew to D.C. this weekend. It was my first flight in 1 year. Felt kind of strange.
Yeah, I bet.
But I'm ready to get back at it. I've taken my first COVID shot. I'll take the second one in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I've never been so excited to be close to like 50 and have a vaccine, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I was looking forward to it as well.
Yeah.
So, and I want to get the second shot.
I think it just gives you a sense of, I don't know, like just peace of mind maybe. I don't know, instead of, especially because I feel like we've been worrying about it for so long, and now I feel like we're at the end of it, but I hate to take my eye off of things, because who wants that to happen right at the end when you're so close to?
When you look at the devastating effect that COVID's had on this community, the number of businesses that didn't make it through, the number of restaurants that shut down or all but shut down, it really put this community back. But there's some amazing people working throughout various aspects of the community to get things rolling, to get some momentum built back up. I'm on the board of Visit Tampa Bay, and there's an uptick now of tourists coming into the community. All those things are good for us.
Absolutely.
They're good for every one of us.
And I think, granted, we have talked, Florida, we are doing quite well. I know there are still some problems, up, and so it'll be interesting to see how things kind of come together a little more, because I would think as we start to get vaccines, people will start traveling this summer. And I mean, we're all stir crazy in a sense and want to get out, but again, where to travel to, because they're still dealing with so many things, and we are quite lucky, I guess, in Florida, because we are doing quite well. But I was just talking to someone the other day, they were saying that businesses were still at like 25%, or some restaurants in some other states. So we've got a long way to go, I guess.
And we can do this if we just do it smart. Just be smart about it. I don't like wearing the mask, but I wear it.
Yeah, I hate it too.
I wear it because I think it's important that, that we protect each other through this process. So, it's a mask.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
Right, and it's, I figure we can handle anything temporarily. It's not something we're gonna have to be, have to do forever. But yeah, it does suck. How do you think will be different going forward, business-wise, and as a community?
The environment always changes. And I think so many people are focused on the effect that COVID had on the environment, but it's just another change in the biggest picture. The environment always changes. It's another challenge. I mean, there's been stock market crashes. There was 9/11. There were things that happened before then. It's not so much what happens, it's how you deal with it. What are the opportunities during that period and after that period? And people come together and figure things out.
Right.
Americans are smart.
It's like 90% of what happens to you, or 10% of what happens to you, or something like that, and 90% of how you react to it. Something like that. I forget who said that. I love quotes. Do you have a favorite quote?
I have lots of different favorite quotes.
Okay, well,
I don't know if I can give you one favorite quote.
Give me one. Or two. Let's have two.
I think one was from General Shinseki. He talks about transformation. He talked about, what happens if you'd asked a farmer, a 19th century farmer, what did they need to be a better farmer? They probably would tell you a bigger ox. They were not aware of the tractor. What they really need is innovation. And look what just the invention of the tractor did to the whole farming industry, and how that meant to other places. And I think the real point there is people get comfortable with what they have and where they are, and they just want more of that. And sometimes it's not more of that. Sometimes it's something else out there, that will help move things forward.
Yeah, where it's like working smarter, not harder necessarily. Well, I guess that's with innovation with Henry Ford or anybody, that might have, or Steve Jobs, those innovators that really thought out of the box when, no one else could see that vision. And I guess, that's what we always try to instill even through our platforms is that, not everyone has to see your dreams or understand what is in your dreams. And one of my favorite quotes, Martin Luther King, right? You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take a step.
Just take a step.
And not everyone is going to see the steps that you are taking. It doesn't matter. Just take them on your own and have faith in you. And that's kind of where I'm always
I
preaching.
just finished reading a book by Microsoft CEO, and in this book he talks about his background in Microsoft, and he was an engineer, and he saw things through the eyes of an engineer. And they had a new baby had some challenges, and they were in the hospital, and the quietness of the hospital room, but you hear the different beeps and things going on in the hospital, and he turns around and looks at all this equipment, and he realizes that it's more than Microsoft is much more than those individual pieces. Microsoft really is the cornerstone of tying all those pieces together and responsible for keeping the sun alive. And the perspective that he saw and gained that day is it's not the individual pieces, it's how all this works together for good. And it kind of set the tone for how he has redefined the culture of Microsoft. And it really, for him, it came through this personal experience of his son.
I think,
And I think about that. How many more experiences are out there that are right in front of us that we can't see? Yeah. And we're waiting for that pivotal moment for some incident to bring it all together that's going to help so many others.
I think it's about being open to opportunities. And as we're, looking for solutions and, just being open to receiving them in a sense and looking at things differently and not trying, looking at things the same way all the time. It's, had he not taken that moment and tried to, really look at how everything was that was, anyway, it could have just been, those are beeps. They could have driven somebody crazy, right?
Exactly.
But no,
exactly.
He took that and that actually meant something to him. And, so give me another one of those. What favorite book? I love those kinds of things.
Favorite book? It's probably, I don't know. I read all the time. I do more audio books right now.
Yeah,
I go through them. I'm just constantly going through them.
Yeah.
So
I cannot stand digital books like Kindle. I have to buy the books. I take notes. I scratch up. I highlight. I have little tabs on all the pages. I mean, and they're like my reference, that I can reference them later. But
all the publishers out there are going to hate this, but I don't buy many hardback books anymore.
I'd like to see them on my bookshelf. Granted, you can have a digital bookshelf. Yeah. I've seen those. That's not the same.
This is my digital bookshelf.
Yeah, well, I have one.
This is my other digital bookshelf right here.
Yeah, it's not the same. And I have a bookshelf in there. In fact, it's, even just like the Edge magazines where you can go on our website and you can see, it's not the same. I'd rather have them like all just not displayed for other people, but it's not like anybody comes into my space, but I want to know, and I think sometimes as we look at things, and obviously when we read something different, because I'll talk to that with my daughter and I'll ask her to read something, and I'm like, you may not get anything out of it today, but you may be able to reference it later. And I found that with books now that I can read them. I did that with the E-Myth a year ago. I hadn't read it in a long time and read it again. Anyway, different things pop out at us. I think we get there when we get there.
There's a book called Purpose Driven Life. I read that book. I studied that book. And I went back a second time a couple years later and really got into that book. And I guess the first time I read it, I wasn't in the right frame of mind to really appreciate it. But I would say that book really changed, my life to some degree, because it made me realize I was having a lot of fun and I was learning a lot and I was traveling places. I started to question whether I was really fulfilling my purpose. And the answer came, and that's when I decided to retire from the Army and go do something different.
And that goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier. If some people just, and you know, granted, it's great if you had stayed right in the Army because you're fulfilling a need for there, but it wasn't, you know, that's not what was gonna.
And I think I was supposed to be there for that time in that period,
absolutely.
but I had to recognize that the environment was changing, I was changing, and I would need to take those tools that I learned and do something else with it. I just had to figure out what that was. But coming to Tampa, I got help figuring out what that was because I got here and I couldn't find a job. And when I couldn't find a job, I was humbled by that, you know, and it was, and I came close to leaving and going some places where I was still getting job offers. But I decided to, stay here and stick it out. But what I kept reflecting back to that book. And I was searching for my purpose, and I realized that it was about, how do you create this business and be in a position to also affect the community. And there's no doubt when I finally realized that, the role really became an oyster because I knew if I did these things for the right reason, if I continued to do these things for the right reason, the rest of it would take care of itself.
And that was my motto when I first started. I didn't have all the answers, and it really wasn't about money to me. Thankfully, I did the model and the business plan and then did the numbers afterwards and thought, okay, good. I can actually maybe, make some money or have, make a living. But I feel like if you do the things for the right reasons,
those other things are going to come.
Right, everything will fall into place. One of my favorite quotes, poems, and I probably talk about this a lot on the show, is Reasons, Seasons, Lifetime. Yeah. And, I think a lot of times it's portrayed towards personal relationships, but I believe that it's really not. I mean, it's based on any relationships or experiences that we have in our life, like even with the Army or with me in real estate. It's, not everything's meant to last a lifetime. Right. Sometimes we are meant to do things for a certain amount of time, right, for a season, or a reason. I mean, all these different things happen. And then ultimately, I feel like if we follow that, we lead towards our soul's purpose. But I feel like some people have such a hard time because they get in that comfort zone. Yeah. They don't like change and they stay. But then things happen in life to force them to move on, right? And then they're devastated because oh my God, and then that can be the best thing that ever ended up happening, but they just don't see that at that time. And
well, you just reminded me of another quote. If you don't like change, irrelevance is going to be harder.
That's good. Because ultimately, if they don't change, they'll be irrelevant. Right? Right. Yeah, no, you as, as a business owner, I mean, we're constantly, we have to be constantly changing. And, so anyone that's not comfortable with change does not need to be, an entrepreneur or running their own business. But I think it's, I don't know, it's been a great learning experience for sure. And just taking everything in that I can and then just trying to figure out how to go forward. But we don't all have, none of us have the answers.
No, together we do.
Right. Collectively,
we have them.
Yes, yeah, and that is what's so cool. Yeah. When you bring a bunch of people together, or even and the issues around the covers, or anything that we do. It's or even your meetings, like you're talking about. That you had at noon. As far as bringing the team together, because, then there's another quote, but I'm going to mess it up. I'm not even going to try on that one. Okay, never mind. Wow. So. What else is next? What are you going to do?
What's next? Like I said, focus on the business, focus on continuing to grow and scale, continue to put me in a learning environment. Yeah. I do several things to help make sure that I'm learning.
Do you feel is there something else that you feel you have to touch in on, as far as you mentioned the schools, is there something else that you're passionate about that you're looking forward to getting involved in? But we only have so much time, right? I mean, you've got to make sure that you could be effective in the things that you're involved in, right? But are there other things that you're looking forward to becoming involved in?
Lots of different things.
Yeah.
I get a chance to touch lots of different things, and sometimes I don't have to do it. I just have to help identify it, and help bring other resources together to help do it. So I don't feel like I have to do everything.
Right.
But I have to do my part in doing things.
I look forward to being able to be more involved. Over the last 10 years as I've been building the business and doing so much on my own, it's been difficult to be involved as much as I'd like, plus as raising kids on my own as well. But I look forward as the team, and COVID was bad. We did downsize, we did what we had to, but I'm thankful this year we're ramping back up, and I look forward to where it goes. But I think
there's so many entrepreneurs having the same challenge.
Oh, absolutely.
There's so many small businesses that have the same challenge. One of the things I'd share is, take inventory of the resources around you. I tell people that all the time. There are probably resources right there that you don't realize that can really help. Like, as you mentioned, sometimes you got to go back and reread something.
Reevaluate. Look at it from a different perspective.
Or have others take a look at it and be surrounded by people that actually add value to what you're doing, not just take away from what you're doing.
And I think often, sometimes, I had asked, I was doing one interview the other day, and I'd asked, toughest lesson learned. And, the answer was, really caring for someone, but realizing they didn't have the best, ethical mind in a sense, and your integrity is everything. Having to distance yourself from people that may not have your best interests and, at mind, even though you might have some connection with them of some kind. But it doesn't matter. Ultimately, you have to protect your energy and your space and your credibility and who you are and becoming. So, what about you? Toughest lesson learned?
Oh my goodness, lots of them. I bumped my head.
We're down to 2 minutes. So.
I bumped my head against the wall so many times that just a lot from business lessons learned. Establishing a banking relationship early in the business, and not just, which is different than just going to a bank, but really having a true banking relationship.
One question while we have time. If you could go back and give your younger self advice, right, before you went into the Army, what advice?
Before I went in the Army?
Yeah, like knowing what you know now.
Oh my goodness.
What advice might that be?
Don't be, just go after more things. Do more, do whatever. I mean, I've jumped out of airplanes. I've led, troops in combat, and I mentioned also got a chance to work in the White House. So I believe, be all you can be. I really believed it.
Now he's a commercial.
And I believed it. And I had a wonderful career. I don't know if I'd do it any differently in the Army.
No, that comes across. I mean, you definitely are passionate about your experiences. And I think you do affect change. And you do those great leaders that are in our community that can touch others and help lead them, and that's what we need. And that's what you and so many other amazing people are doing in our community. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
That. So see, time goes fast, right? We're just about out of time. So thank you, Brian, for being with us. For more information on Brian, you can check out VistraConsult.com.
Consult Vistra.
I was close. It's on there. Just don't listen to me.
Vistra.com.
There you go. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know you could have been a million other places, so I appreciate you being here with us. You can check out edgemediahub.com, find out all of the information about our upcoming issues, and then even our fall issue, which will be real estate focused, and then we have our first annual small business awards lunch, and that'll be in December. We also have our first annual leadership luncheon in October. So stay tuned to all of that. You can find out all the information, subscribe to our newsletters, and you can subscribe to the magazine and get your printed copy to your office. So until next time, never stop dreaming. We'll see you soon. Thanks.